Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. Monday Night Raw tonight was from the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City, Missouri. I find it funny that they were at another T-Mobile arena tonight, which they were at, the T-Mobile arena last week for WrestleMania weekend for NXT, for SmackDown, and Monday Night Raw. But Monday Night Raw just ended, and this was an okay show tonight. It was very promo heavy than wrestling heavy. We had Rhea Ripley versus Roxanne Perez. We had the War Raiders, Eric and Ivar. They have taken on Finn Balor and Jaden McDonagh. We had the NXT Women's Champion, Stephanie Vaquer. She had taken on Ivy Nile. And in the main event, we had Bron Breakker versus SAMI ZAYN, which I will get to the SAMI ZAYN stuff because the opening to Monday Night Raw involved SAMI ZAYN and Seth Rollins, Bron Breakker, and Paul Heyman. But overall, Monday Night Raw was an okay show tonight. Wasn't the best, wasn't great, but it was just okay. But before I get into the review, if you guys haven't checked out my previous video that I uploaded earlier today, I did a movie review of The Dead Zone, which stars Christopher Walken. So if you guys haven't checked out my review of that, definitely give it a watch. But very good movie based off of the Stephen King novel. So really enjoyed the film. But check out my review of it. But anyway, let's jump right into the review. Monday Night Raw opened tonight with Seth Rollins, Bron Breakker, and Paul Heyman. And Seth Rollins made his way out, and I'm like, what the fuck was he wearing with the robe? He had the stupid looking glasses that had eyes that looked like jeweled eyes. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is how Rollins looked with those glasses. I'm like, they were just creeping me out when he was wearing them. But yeah, take a look at these glasses that he was wearing here. Look at this. Absolutely horrendous. And the crowd here was singing along to Rollins' theme music, going, whoa. I'm like, why are they singing along? Why are they still singing along to his theme song when he's supposed to be a heel? He's supposed to be a heel. But I guess the fans don't want to boo Rollins. They don't buy Rollins as a heel. So Rollins got on the mic. He ended up saying, Kansas City, welcome to Monday Night Rollins. Of course, he did a shtick where he goes, I am a visionary, I am a revolutionary, I am Seth frickin' Rollins. Rollins ended up saying that in case you didn't know and have been living under a rock, they're looking at the winner of the main event of WrestleMania. So Rollins then ended up handing his stupid looking sunglasses that he was wearing to Paul Heyman. Finally, he took off those creepy looking glasses. So Rollins ended up saying that he knows it's difficult out there for those who want to chant for CM Punk. And that led the fans to chant for Punk. And one thing I gotta say, the Kansas City crowd here tonight for Raw was awful, in my opinion. This was just a cricket-inducing crowd tonight. I mean, they hardly made noise throughout the entire night. I mean, you had your, this is awesome, and they also chanted, one more time. That's pretty much basically what you got from the crowd in Kansas City tonight. So Rollins end up going to say that he also acknowledges it's painful for those who want to point their fingers in the air and chant for Roman Reigns. To which they start chanting OTC. So Rollins end up saying what the fans are looking at in this ring right now is the future of our industry. With him, Bron Breakker. He ends up saying that the future runs through one man. And that man is not CM Punk or Roman Reigns or John Cena or Jey Uso or even Cody Rhodes. He ends up saying the future of this industry, with Paul Heyman and Bron Breakker at his sides, runs through him, Seth Rollins. So then Sami Zayn ended up coming out. Sami Zayn came out and Rollins looked all surprised. Sami Zayn got into the ring and Rollins ended up getting the crowd to cheer for Sami. Rollins then welcomed Sami back to Monday Night Raw, and Rollins assumes that Sami Zayn caught WrestleMania. Sami Zayn ended up saying to Rollins that he saw the main event of WrestleMania. Sami ended up asking how long have him and Rollins been friends. Rollins ended up saying it's been a long time. So Sami ended up saying that he feels the need as a friend and someone who has known him for a long time to tell him to his face that this is a load of crap. So with Sami Zayn saying that, Rollins was looking all confused, like, what are you saying about, this? So Rollins was like, what do you mean? Sami then ended up asking how much time Rollins has spent talking about both Roman Reigns and CM Punk. He ended up saying that the one thing they have in common is standing over his shoulder, and that is Paul Heyman. Of course, Seth Rollins, now a Paul Heyman guy. Punk was a Paul Heyman guy. Roman Reigns was a Paul Heyman guy. So Sami was like to Rollins, how are you any different? So Rollins ended up asking Sami if he's seriously comparing him to Punk and Roman. So Sami ended up saying that he thought that Rollins had a deep hatred for Punk and sounded self-righteous, talking about Roman Reigns. He ended up saying, but now he thinks Rollins was just jealous. So Sami was like, oh, maybe Rollins wanted to be in the position they were in. So Rollins ended up saying to Sami that he's not either CM Punk or Roman Reigns. He ended up saying this is the vision for the future. He ended up saying that they've talked for years about the future. So Sami ended up saying that it must be a coincidence that the future revolves around Seth being front and center. And Rollins was like, no, it's not a coincidence because I'm the best man for the job. So Sami was like, oh, well, it's not a coincidence. It's hypocritical. He ended up saying that Rollins has spent all this time talking about the bloodline. So Rollins was like to Sami, this is not the bloodline. Sami then ended up asking Rollins how it's different because he's got his wise man and his little dog. And Sami was like to Bron Breakker, oh, if you keep looking at me like that, I will kick your face in. So Rollins ended up saying that this is the vision for the future. He ended up saying that Sami is either with them or he becomes a target. And that's not a threat. Rollins ended up saying that he doesn't want Sami to become a target. And this is bigger than them. He ended up saying that it doesn't matter if he hates Sami as much as both Reigns and Punk. He ended up saying that it doesn't matter if he loves him the way he does. Rollins ended up saying to Sami that if he stands in their way, he will become a target. And Rollins ended up saying that he doesn't want that for Sami. He ended up saying that they can find a solution for this. So Rollins then ended up telling Paul Heyman to pull some strings and get Sami moved off of Monday Night Raw. So Rollins wants, Sami Zayn to go to SmackDown so that Sami doesn't become a target for when Rollins and Bron Breakker, runs things on Monday Night Raw. So Rollins ended up telling Sami that's not a threat. He ended up saying that Sami is clearly not going to buy into what they are selling. So maybe they can cash him out. So Rollins was like, oh, well, that is not a threat. It is an offer. And I was waiting for Rollins to say, oh, it's a spoiler. Just like what Paul Heyman used to say. So Sami Zayn smiled crookedly at Rollins, like, all right. So Rollins then ended up telling Sami to think about it. He then ended up saying to Sami that they'll need an answer by the end of the night. So Rollins and Paul Heyman end up turning to leave the ring while Bron Breakker stood staring at Sami Zayn. Paul Heyman ended up coming back and pulled Breakker away. And pretty much that was basically how the segment ended. But this whole Monday Night Raw revolved around Sami Zayn if he wants to, not become a target by Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker, and for Sami to go to SmackDown. So that's what this show revolved around tonight. Sami Zayn making a decision. But overall, this was a good opening to Monday Night Raw here. And then we had the first match of the night. Rhea Ripley. She ended up taking on Roxanne Perez from NXT. And this was a good match here between these two. Roxanne Perez, really enjoy her in the ring. She has had many good, decent matches down in NXT. Hopefully, she ends up getting the call up officially soon. She's just making an appearance on Monday Night Raw. Same for Julia, because they're still NXT stars. So we had the match end up getting underway where we saw Rhea Ripley end up going after Roxanne Perez. Perez ended up rolling under Rhea, and she ended up getting out of the ring. So Roxanne ended up coming back into the ring. Rhea ended up squaring up against Roxanne, and she ended up thrusting Roxanne forward, but Roxanne ended up getting out of the ring again. Rhea ended up sticking her head out of the ring, and Roxanne ended up throwing her ring jacket at Rhea. Roxanne ended up hitting a chop block to Rhea's knee. Roxanne started kicking away at Rhea's knee that she chop blocked. Rhea then grabbed Roxanne, but Roxanne ended up smacking Rhea in the face. We had Rhea end up charging at Roxanne, but Roxanne ended up connecting with a drop toe hold into the turnbuckles to Rhea. Rhea ended up booting Roxanne back. She ended up going for the Razor's Edge, but Roxanne ended up getting out of that. Roxanne ended up going for a wheelbarrow bulldog, but Rhea ended up fighting out of it. Roxanne ended up taking Rhea down. She ended up going to twist Rhea's injured leg, but Rhea ended up kicking away at Roxanne. Roxanne ended up cutting Rhea off and drop-kicked Rhea out of the ring. Roxanne ended up going for a suicide dive, but she ended up getting caught by Rhea, and Rhea ended up slinging Roxanne into the barricade. Rhea ended up scooping Roxanne up and dropped Roxanne sternum first onto the barricade. Rhea ended up getting Roxanne back into the ring. Rhea then ended up quickly dropping Roxanne onto the apron and knocked her to the floor. Roxanne ended up grabbing Rhea's feet and ended up taking Rhea down, and she ended up slamming Rhea's knee off the ring post twice, that injured knee that she chop blocked. So Roxanne ended up getting to the ring, and she ended up twisting around Rhea. She ended up going for a side leg sweep, but Rhea didn't go down. It did nothing to Rhea. Rhea then connected with a clothesline to Roxanne. Roxanne ended up fighting back. She ended up going for a diving crossbody block, but Rhea caught Roxanne, and we had Rhea end up laying Roxanne out with a delayed vertical suplex. Rhea then drop-kicked Roxanne out of the ring, and Rhea started shaking some feeling into her injured knee to, hopefully let it move. And then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Roxanne Perez was in control of the match. She ended up hitting Rhea with a double jump moonsault. She ended up going for the cover, to which Rhea ended up kicking out. We had Roxanne end up attacking Rhea's knee, and Roxanne applied a deathlock onto Rhea. So Rhea and Roxanne were trading punches as Roxanne applied the deathlock. Rhea then ended up getting Perez to release the deathlock, but Perez ended up coming back with a leg twist on Rhea. Rhea tried to kick Perez away, but Perez kept hold of the leg with the deathlock. So Rhea ended up kicking Roxanne away, and she ended up kicking Roxanne in the face. Rhea then avoided a clothesline, and she ended up pinning a pair of short-arm clotheslines to Roxanne. So we had Julia end up making her way to ringside, and she started taunting Rhea. Rhea ended up turning into an inside cradle from Roxanne, so she ended up going for the cover, and Rhea ended up kicking out. So at the end of the match, we had Rhea Ripley ended up winning the match because she won by disqualification because she ended up going for the Riptide on Roxanne Perez, but Julia ended up chop blocking Rhea. So post-match, Roxanne Perez and Julia ended up double teaming up on Rhea, and this brought out Io Sky, the Women's World Champion. Io ended up running down to make the save for Rhea, and Io ended up uppercutting both Perez and Julia. Io ended up slinging Julia's foot into Perez's face, and she ended up hitting Julia with a roll-up into a double stomp. Perez then ended up quickly dropping Io onto the apron, but Io ended up knocking Perez back. Io ended up going for a springboard maneuver, but Julia ended up hitting the ropes to trip Io. So Julia and then Roxanne Perez ended up double teaming up on Io until Rhea Ripley ended up coming back into the ring and chased both Julia and Roxanne Perez off. And pretty much that was basically that. But looks like we're going to be getting a tag team match at Backlash where it's going to be Io and Rhea teaming up to take on Roxanne Perez and Julia. Maybe it's setting up for that. But overall, good match it was from Rhea Ripley and Roxanne Perez. And with Julia and Roxanne Perez, being showcased, and also Stephanie Vaquer earlier in the night, you could tell that this is these are co-produced by Triple H and Shawn Michaels, maybe. Because you have NXT talent, and of course Shawn Michaels runs NXT. So this could be a showcasing of Triple H and Shawn Michaels co-producing the match, which is good. Same for the Stephanie Vaquer match that we saw later on. And then we saw the Judgment Day. Finn Balor ended up embracing Jaden McDonagh returning. So Balor ended up pulling McDonagh aside. Balor ended up telling McDonagh that he was surprised to see him return. And McDonagh ended up saying that he told Dominic, but it didn't get back to Balor. So Balor ended up saying that he wishes McDonagh had told him. So McDonagh ended up apologizing. Liv Morgan ended up walking up, and she ended up asking if all is good. So Balor was like to Liv, "Oh, me and McDonagh are just catching up." So Liv ended up asking why they are not preparing for their match, and Balor was all confused. McDonagh ended up saying that Liv thought it would be a good idea if they went after the tag team titles. McDonagh ended up saying to Balor that he went to Nick Aldis, and they have a match against the War Raiders. Liv Morgan ended up saying that she thought it was a good idea since Balor isn't a champion. Balor ended up saying that he doesn't have a problem with this, but he wants to be kept in the loop. So Balor and McDonagh walked off. Carlito was like, "Oh, everyone would be a champion. Maybe I should be a champion. That'll be cool." So then he took a bite out of the apple, and that was that. And then we got Logan Paul. Logan Paul was in the ring. Crowd ended up booing him. Logan Paul ended up saying that he doesn't know if they all remember, but he beat AJ Styles last weekend at WrestleMania. He ended up going to say that Kansas City is a victim of circumstance and that they don't recognize greatness standing in front of them. Really? Greatness in Logan Paul? He ended up saying they are so stupid and don't know what a true legend looks like. He's calling himself a legend. Logan Paul is some comedian there. A true legend. He ended up saying this may offend some people, but a true legend does not look like your current World Heavyweight Champion, Jey Uso. And when he said that, I'm like, all right, I know where this is going. So Logan Paul ended up saying that he had 7 days to think about it. And he realized that he has done everything there is to do in this industry, except win a world title. He ended up saying that Jey Uso's days are numbered because he has something that he wants. So this brought out Jey Uso, main event Jey Uso, the World Heavyweight Champion. Jey Uso, when he came down, he ended up giving his sunglasses to a young fan in the front row. And apparently this young fan defeated cancer, which is, good, because fuck cancer. So Jey Uso ended up saying that he's going to silence Logan Paul's noise. He ended up saying after 15 years of trying to get the world title, he's not going to hand it over to some punk-ass YouTuber. So Jey ended up saying that he watched Gunther be his twin to a bloody pulp. He ended up saying that it did something to him and lit a fire that isn't ever going out. He ended up saying that the title, the World Heavyweight Championship, is not given, and that is earned, and it belongs to him. So Jey ended up saying to Logan Paul if he wants it, he can come take it. So Logan Paul then rolled his eyes. He ended up saying Jey is yeeting himself stupid. He ended up saying that he's done more in 4 years than Jey has done in 15. So Logan Paul ended up saying that he's going to take the World Heavyweight Championship from Jey. Logan Paul ended up saying that Jey will do what he does best, which is crash out, screw up, and lose the World Heavyweight Championship in less time than he held the Intercontinental Championship. So Logan Paul ended up telling Jey to enjoy it while he still can. So Jey then ended up delivering a super kick to Logan Paul, knocking him out. So Jey Uso then walked off, and pretty much that was basically that. But yeah, we're going to be getting Logan Paul versus Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship at Backlash. And I'm like, Logan Paul is not World Heavyweight Championship material. He is not. And then we had the Judgment Day. Finn Balor and Jaden McDonagh. They ended up taking on the War Raiders, Eric and Ivar. Of course, Balor and McDonagh were accompanied by Carlito. And this was a decent match here. We had the New Day, Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston. They were on commentary during this match, the World Tag Team Champions. So the match got underway. McDonagh and Ivar started off. Ivar ended up quickly taking McDonagh down with a shoulder tackle. Balor then distracted Ivar, and this led to McDonagh attacking Ivar. Ivar then knocked Balor down. McDonagh ended up hitting Ivar in the back with, of his surgically repaired neck. So Balor then tagged in, and he started punching Ivar down. McDonagh then tagged back in. Ivar ended up hitting McDonagh with a back body drop, and Ivar then ended up tagging Eric in. Eric ended up attacking McDonagh, and he ended up hitting Balor with an explosive suplex. Eric then drop-kicked McDonagh down, and then he tagged Ivar. Ivar then avalanched Balor and ended up sending him into a clothesline from Eric. Eric then grabbed McDonagh, and he viciously kneed McDonagh in the face. Eric then threw McDonagh out of the ring, and Balor and McDonagh tried to blindside the War Raiders because the War Raiders were posing in the ring, and it was prompting the New Day to yell at the War Raiders, so the War Raiders were focused on the New Day, which led to Balor and McDonagh trying to blindside them, but the War Raiders ended up hitting both Balor and McDonagh with some scoop slams. Eric then scoop slammed Ivar onto McDonagh, which I really like that. Nice double team work there when, Eric scoop slams Ivar onto one of their opponents. So Eric then tagged back in. Ivar went to ringside. Ivar ended up going for a run crossbody against the LED apron, but Carlito pulled McDonagh out of the way. So then, as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, McDonagh was in control of the match. He started punching away at Eric in the corner. Eric fought back, and he took Balor down. He then floored McDonagh with a forearm to his jaw. Ivar and Balor then ended up tagging in, so Ivar and Balor ended up going at it. Ivar ended up hitting a shoulder tackle to Balor, which was followed up by a side slam. And Ivar delivered a running basement crossbody to Balor. Balor then avoided an avalanche from Ivar, and Ivar ended up delivering a seated senton to Balor. Ivar then cartwheeled around McDonagh, and he ended up dropping McDonagh with a spin kick. So we had Ivar end up hitting Balor with the Bronco Buster. Ivar headed to the top rope for a Doomsault, but Balor moved out of the way, and Ivar ended up hitting the canvas hard. McDonagh then tagged in. McDonagh jumped off Ivar's back to attack Eric. McDonagh then knocked Ivar out of the ring, and he pinned both of the War Raiders with a side moonsault. McDonagh ended up getting Ivar back into the ring, and he ended up going up to the top, and he hit the moonsault onto Ivar. So McDonagh ended up going for the cover, and Eric broke up the pin. We had later on Carlito distracted the referee, who was Jessica Carr, because McDonagh ended up using his head to floor Eric with a jawbreaker. Penta ended up running down, and he knocked McDonagh off the top rope. This led to the War Raiders end up hitting McDonagh with the War Machine on McDonagh. So we had Eric end up going for the cover, and there you go. The War Raiders ended up winning the match. Post-match, Penta started taunting both Balor and McDonagh while standing on the commentary table. So pretty much that was basically that. You had a point where the New Day were taunting the Raiders from commentary, and Ivar threw Balor into the New Day and avalanched them all. So, but overall, decent tag team match it was from the War Raiders and Balor and McDonagh. And then we saw SAMI ZAYN. SAMI ZAYN was talking with Otis, and Paul Heyman ended up walking in. Paul Heyman ended up telling Otis to give him and Sammy a moment. So Otis ended up leaving. Paul Heyman ended up saying that he was thinking about what Sammy said in the ring about the bloodline, and that they're the OG bloodline. Sammy was like to Paul Heyman, "That's true, but Paul Heyman blew up whatever was left of it at WrestleMania." So Paul Heyman ended up saying that he respected Sammy when he broke away from the bloodline. He ended up saying perhaps one day Sammy will understand why he had to do what he did. So Paul Heyman ended up saying that Seth Rollins views himself as the future of the industry. He ended up saying whether he is or he isn't, that's how he views himself. He ended up saying that Bron Breakker is Rollins' dog at the gate. He ended up saying whether he is or he isn't, that's how he views himself. He ended up saying to Sammy that Bron Breakker is demanding the match against him. Paul Heyman ended up saying that him and Rollins can't say no to that because Breakker is a key to their plans. Paul Heyman ended up telling Sammy that Rollins views Sammy with reverence and is offering him a pass. Paul Heyman ended up telling him that if he accepts a trade to SmackDown starting this Friday, then everybody will win. Paul Heyman ended up telling Sammy that he has spoken to both Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis. So Paul Heyman ended up saying that Rollins is going to do Sammy a favor if he accepts this offer. Heyman ended up telling Sami that upon Sami's trade to SmackDown, he'll face the winner of, John Cena versus Randy Orton. He ended up saying to Sami, just like that, Sami is an instant title contender. So Heyman ended up telling Sami to think of his future and his family's future, and that Sami can live in the future or die with the past. So Heyman then put his arm around Sami, ended up telling Sami to think about it. So pretty much that was basically that. Heyman walked off. Bron Breakker was shown standing in the doorway, seething with anger. So, but, if Sami accepts the trade to SmackDown, then everybody will win. And if he accepts the offer, he'll face the winner of John Cena versus Randy Orton as a, instant title contender. So Sami Zayn had to think about all that as the show progressed tonight. And then we had Becky Lynch. Oh my God. My God, this promo from Becky. Becky is awful on the mic. I can't imagine all of you watching this promo and having to listen to Becky deliver this promo and your ears started bleeding. Because that's how I felt listening to hearing Becky on the mic here. So Becky headed to the ring, and Becky got on the mic. She ended up saying that the man has come around to Kansas City. She ended up saying that she is back in business. So let's get down to it. Becky ended up sarcastically saying that Bayley was tragically taken out of her WrestleMania match, but there won't be any murder mystery or weeks long of who did it. Becky ended up saying that she has found the culprit to who took out Bayley at WrestleMania. So Becky was like, it was me. I did it. So there you go. Becky was the one who took out Bayley at WrestleMania. So Becky was yelling at the fans not to act like she's the bad guy and to fake outrage. She ended up saying that woman has attacked her nonstop since 2019 in Bayley. She ended up saying not one time did Bayley apologize to her. She ended up saying that Bayley forgets what this business is. Becky ended up saying that while Bayley was begging for people to like her and wondering why she wasn't a bigger star, she got to see a bigger star when Becky walked down the ramp at WrestleMania. So Becky was like, oh, that brings me to Lyra Valkyria. She ended up saying that there's no phrase that goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. She ended up saying that the reverse also works because the friend of my enemy is my enemy. She ended up saying that Lyra wouldn't be in this business if it wasn't for her. Becky ended up saying that she had high hopes for Lyra, but while she was out, Lyra was cozying up to the woman she's been fighting for 6 years. She ended up saying even then, she still tried to save her. Becky ended up saying that she wanted Lyra to ditch that bitch. She ended up saying that she never would have won the tag team titles with Bayley. She ended up saying that Lyra was already compromised and that she's already a loser. So this brought out Lyra Valkyria, the Women's Intercontinental Champion. Lyra ended up getting on the mic. She ended up saying that Becky had high hopes for her, but many women warned her about Becky. Lyra ended up saying that Bayley was one of the first to warn her. Lyra ended up saying that Bayley told her that Becky would step on anyone's throat to get ahead. Lyra ended up saying that she didn't buy into it because she wanted to have Irish tag team champions at WrestleMania. She ended up saying that she didn't buy it because of the hope she had for Becky. She ended up saying after multiple manhandle slams, she knows exactly what Becky is. So Lyra then got on the apron. She ended up saying that the illusion of Becky Lynch is dead, and that she wants to make her pay for what she did to her and Bayley. So Becky ended up quickly out of the ring, and Lyra was like, Well, Becky? Why are you running away? I can't believe you're running away. So Lyra ended up reminding Becky that she ended up beating her to win the NXT Women's Championship. So Becky ended up saying that the man only fights when it matters. She ended up saying that it does not matter in Kansas City. Lyra ended up saying that the man is too good for Kansas City. So Lyra then suggested, how about we fight at Backlash? And I will put the Women's Intercontinental Championship on the line. So Becky ended up saying that she'll make the title matter, like she made Lyra matter. So Lyra was like to Becky, shut up. And that Becky never made her matter. She did. So Lyra ended up saying that she is not interested in being the next Becky Lynch, and that she'll be a better person than Becky. She ended up saying that she already knows she's a better wrestler than Becky. So Becky started flipping out of ringside, more awful screaming from Becky on the mic. So Lyra ended up wiping Becky out with a wrecking ball dropkick. Lyra then ended up attacking Becky at ringside, and she ended up getting Becky into the ring. Lyra started punching away at Becky, but Becky quickly escaped, and she ran through the crowd. Lyra then stood tall, and then we had the replay shown of Lyra taking out Becky with that wrecking ball dropkick. So at this point, Lyra posed on the stage with the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Becky Lynch comes out of nowhere and blindsided Lyra. And Becky ended up warning Lyra not to forget her. So pretty much that was basically that. So there you go. We're going to be getting Lyra Vaquer versus Becky Lynch for the Women's Intercontinental Championship at Backlash. There you go. Another match confirmed. And then we saw Penta. Penta was backstage with Nick Aldis. So Nick Aldis ended up saying to Penta that he can't let him interfere in matches, but he won't fine him. Nick Aldis ended up telling Penta that he made a match for next week, and that Penta will face JD McDonagh. So Penta was all excited about that. Chad Gable walked up with Ivy Nile. Chad Gable ended up saying to Penta that he wants to talk to a luchador on the descent. Chad Gable ended up saying that Penta beat him in his first match. But look at him now. He ended up saying Penta losing at WrestleMania wasn't his favorite moment. It was when his useless brother, Rey Fenix, lost to El Grande Americano in that awful match. So Penta ended up kicking Chad Gable down, and he ended up shouting to Chad Gable that he's messed with the Lucha Brothers. And that was basically that. So when Chad Gable said that to Penta about Phoenix losing to El Grande Americano, Penta was fired up and pissed off. So that was that. And then we had a promo from Rusev. Rusev, of course, returned last week, and we got a promo from him tonight. And I'm like, are we going to get him live tonight? No. All we got was a promo. Rusev ended up saying that he had it all once upon a time. He ended up saying that he had the gold, the fame, and a tank at WrestleMania, referencing his great WrestleMania 31 special entrance where he came out with the tank. Then he ended up saying that he lost himself. He ended up saying that he left the WWE and fell into the abyss in Bulgaria. Yeah, we all know where he went. He went to AEW. He ended up saying that he found himself in the abyss and fixed himself. He ended up saying that in hell, he realized he won't fight for a woman that isn't his, or a flag that never was. He ended up saying that he had an epiphany. Rusev ended up saying that he's free to crush people, not because he was told to, but because he wants to. He ended up saying that he will use his hands and jack body for good. He ended up going on to say that he will hunt the flawed, the arrogant, and those who waste their talents, just as he did. He ended up saying through pain, he will perfect them all for good, and that he is the tempest rolling in. So Rusev ended up saying that he will hunt them and fix them, just as he fixed himself. So very good promo from Rusev there. Much better than the previous segment with Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria. Awful fucking segment that was. And then we had Ivy Nile versus Stephanie Vaquer, the NXT Women's Champion. Really enjoy Stephanie Vaquer. She is great in the ring. Surprisingly, this was a solid match here. Match got underway. Stephanie Vaquer signaled for a test of strength to Ivy Nile, to which Ivy Nile was like, no. I don't want to test of strength. Ivy Nile ended up taking Stephanie Vaquer down. She ended up going for the cover, to which Vaquer kicked out at 1. Ivy Nile ended up hooking a front face lock, and she had to find through some escape attempts from, Stephanie. So Stephanie ended up twisting out. She had pinned a nice pin and combo onto Ivy Nile, to which Ivy Nile kicked out. Ivy Nile then hooked the side headlock. Stephanie Vaquer ended up wiping Ivy Nile off. Ivy Nile then shoulder tackled Vaquer. Ivy Nile ended up hitting the ropes, but Vaquer ended up laying a shoulder tackle of her own to Ivy Nile. Vaquer ended up sending Ivy into the ropes, but Ivy connected with a head scissor takeover. Vaquer came back, ended up hitting a head scissor into a roll-up, to which Ivy ended up kicking out. So we had Vaquer end up grapevining Ivy Nile's head, and she ended up going for the devil's kiss, but Ivy Nile ended up getting out of it, and she ended up stretching Vaquer out. Vaquer ended up rolling through, and she ended up executing the devil's kiss, which I really enjoy when Vaquer does the devil's kiss. Nice move there, to which Charlotte tried to do, but Vaquer did it better. So, of course, Chad Gable was out there, and he was not happy about that, with Vaquer doing the devil's kiss to Ivy Nile. So then, as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Vaquer ended up hitting another devil's kiss to Ivy Nile. Vaquer ended up crushing Nile with a running meteor in the corner. She ended up going for the cover, but Chad Gable put Ivy Nile's foot on the bottom rope, to which the ref didn't see that. So Vaquer ended up getting out of the ring, and she ended up going to confront Chad Gable. So this distraction led Ivy Nile grabbing Vaquer, and Ivy Nile ended up delivering a German suplex to Stephanie Vaquer on the floor. Ivy Nile got Vaquer in the ring, and she had pinned a running kick in the corner to Vaquer. Ivy Nile ended up pinning a German suplex with a bridge on Vaquer, and she ended up going for the cover, to which Vaquer ended up kicking out. So, at the end of the match, we had Vaquer end up getting Ivy Nile's legs tied on the ropes, and she hit the dragon screw. Vaquer then connected with the SVB on Ivy Nile. She ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Stephanie Vaquer ended up winning the match. Overall, solid women's match here between Nile and Vaquer. Like I said, really enjoy Vaquer in the ring. She has had very good matches down in NXT. If you haven't watched any of Vaquer's matches, definitely check them out. And then we had Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis was talking to AJ Styles, and Nick Aldis ended up telling Styles that even though it didn't go his way at WrestleMania, Styles can get back on the horse with a lot of new opponents. So Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez and Dominic Mysterio end up coming in. Liv Morgan ended up saying that she hates to tank the ratings on Monday Night Raw, but she'll be gone for a bit because she's filming a big Hollywood movie. Who knows if that's true or not? I haven't seen anything about Liv Morgan filming a movie. So Nick Aldis ended up saying that the paperwork came through and that she is good to go. So Dominic ended up saying, well, I need time off as well. So Nick Aldis was like, why? Dominic ended up saying to Nick Aldis that he's the Intercontinental Champion, and he can do what he wants. So Nick Aldis ended up saying that Dominic should have listened to his old man. He had to tell Dominic, when you're a champion, you have to show up more. So Dominic ended up asking what he's talking to Styles about. Find a retirement home? So AJ Styles was like, oh, didn't you break your hip like your deadbeat dad? So Styles ended up saying he liked to break something. So Liv Morgan ended up pulling Dominic away. Styles then turned to Nick Aldis, ended up saying that he has an idea. So looks like we're going to begin Dominic versus AJ Styles. So that's going to be coming. But like I said, Liv Morgan, going to be gone for a bit because she's filming a movie. Haven't heard anything about it. So then we saw SAMI ZAYN. SAMI ZAYN was shown pacing, and Karrion Kross walked up to him. Kross ended up telling SAMI that he has a big decision to make, and hopefully that SAMI will make the correct one. So that was that. Karrion Kross, he looked like SAMI ZAYN, was, side hair in a bun. So that was that. Please, more Karrion Kross on TV. He has to be booked a lot better. And then we saw Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee got on the commentary table. He was addressing last week's attack by Gunther on him. McAfee ended up saying that it's great to be in the home of the Kansas City Chiefs. He ended up saying people have forgotten who the hell he is. He ended up saying that he's been so successful on the mic that even he's forgotten who the hell he is. McAfee ended up saying that this past week, he has made him look in the mirror and realize some things. He ended up saying that he's still that dog who was born in the East Hills of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He ended up saying that he's the son of a truck driver who lived paycheck to paycheck. He ended up saying that he wasn't given a lot, but he's blessed with great friends. McAfee ended up saying that he went from a relevant bum to someone who was known around the world. He ended up saying that he doesn't have more talent than anyone else, but he has a few things he hopes people will remember him by. He ended up saying when he dies and is 6 feet in the dirt, he hopes people will say he was an incredibly hard worker who worked his ass off for his friends, family, and community. He ended up saying that he hopes they think of him as an empathetic man who gave millions of dollars to his community, children's hospitals, military foundations, homeless shelters, LGBTQ communities, public schools, and unprivileged communities. He ended up saying that he hopes they see that he left the world better than he found it. He ended up saying, last but not least, when he's dead and gone, they will say he was a loyal motherfucker. Very good, promo so far that was delivered by Pat McAfee. So McAfee ended up saying that you have to ride with those who ride for you. He ended up saying that if one goes, all go. You're either with him or against him. He ended up saying that there's one man who has been with him since he met him. He's the greatest of all time, and that person is Michael Cole. So the crowd ended up cheering for Michael Cole, because after what happened last week, where Michael Cole ended up telling Adam Pearce, I'm not going to let some bully, take me out. He wanted to go and do the rest of commentary for Raw when Adam Pearce was giving Michael Cole the night off. But Michael Cole was like, no, I'm going to do my job. I'm not going to let some bully, have me not do my job. So Pat McAfee ended up saying that he will be loyal to Michael Cole until he's in the soil. He ended up saying last week when that Austrian asshole in Gunther, to which Gunther is suspended after what happened last week. He ended up saying last week when that Austrian asshole put his hand on the goat, he had no option but to protect his boy. He ended up saying after it happened, he got attacked from behind. McAfee ended up saying that he has seen himself choked out all over social media and on TV. He ended up saying that his friends and family have been warning him about Gunther. So McAfee ended up saying, if I die, I die. So McAfee ended up calling out Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis ended up coming out to the stage. He ended up saying Adam Pearce lets chaos reign, but that's not his style. Nick Aldis ended up telling Pat McAfee to keep it professional. McAfee ended up saying that he knows Aldis is a middle manager, but he can make things happen. Pat McAfee ended up saying that he isn't happy that Gunther isn't here. So he ended up telling Nick Aldis to lift the suspension of Gunther so he can fight him. So Nick Aldis ended up telling McAfee that he discussed this with Adam Pearce. He ended up saying that as far as lifting Gunther's suspension, the answer is no. He ended up saying that both Gunther and McAfee are both valuable assets to the company. So Nick Aldis ended up saying, oh, we can lift the suspension. And Pat McAfee could get his hands on Gunther as long as it is a sanctioned match in a WWE ring. So Nick Aldis ended up suggesting that it will be Pat McAfee versus Gunther at Backlash. So Pat McAfee ended up agreeing to the match. So we're going to be getting the match. Pat McAfee versus Gunther at Backlash. It's a long while since we've seen Pat McAfee in the ring. So this could be a good match between him and Gunther. And I find it like somewhat stupid saying, how Nick Aldis was like, oh, as far as lifting the suspension, no. But we can lift the suspension. I'm like, first you said no, and then you're like, oh, now we can lift the suspension. I thought that was somewhat stupid. But overall, this was a very good promo from Pat McAfee here. Pat McAfee is good at doing a promo, and he is awesomely good on commentary. But we can see possibly, Pat McAfee, getting a little brutalized by Gunther at Backlash. But it's definitely, in my opinion, a high-level match. And then we saw SAMI ZAYN. SAMI ZAYN was backstage when Jey Uso came up to him. Jey ended up saying to SAMI that he has a big decision to make. He ended up saying that whatever decision SAMI makes, he loves him. SAMI ended up saying that he loves Jey too. So both SAMI and Jey ended up embracing. SAMI walked off, and Jey was looking a little worried about what would happen with SAMI. And then all of a sudden, Logan Paul blindsides Jey with a right hand. So Logan Paul ended up telling Jey, well, that's karma. So pretty much that was basically that. And then they announced what we're going to see next week on Raw from Omaha, Nebraska. It's, of course, going to be Penta versus JD McDonagh, which was confirmed earlier. And we're going to see Rusev versus Otis. So those two matches are confirmed for Monday Night Raw next week in Omaha, Nebraska. Then we went to Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins was in the ring. Rollins got on the mic. He ended up saying that it's nearly the end of the night, and he loved for Sami to come out here and talk it out with him. So Sami Zayn made his way out. Rollins ended up saying that before Sami makes his decision, he wants Sami to hear him out. He ended up saying that Sami is putting him in a very difficult position, and that they go back a long way. He ended up saying for the life of him, he doesn't want to see anything bad happen to Sami. Rollins ended up saying that he gets that Sami doesn't like Bron Breakker and Paul Heyman, but it's about them and 20 years of friendship. He ended up saying last week he watched Sami come back to Monday Night Raw and celebrate with Jey Uso because they're friends. He ended up saying that when Sami came out tonight, he was hoping Sami would give him the same respect. Rollins ended up saying that he knows Sami disagrees with it, But him, Bron Breakker, and Paul Heyman are the way forward. Rollins ended up saying that he believes with his whole heart that this is the vision for the best future of WWE. Rollins ended up saying to Sami that he wishes he had someone else to believe in, but there is no one better to lead the future than him. He ended up saying that the fact that Sami doesn't believe in him hurts. He ended up saying that this business tears relationships and friendships apart, and that they've both been on those sides. He ended up saying, how many true friends can Sami count in this business? Less than 5? And Rollins ended up saying that for him, Sami is one of those true friends. He ended up saying that when his baby girl was born, Sami was one of the first people that he called. He ended up saying that Sami had just become a new father himself, and Rollins ended up saying that he was scared out of his mind, and Sami gave him the best advice he got in his life. And Rollins ended up saying that he is grateful for Sami of that. So Rollins then ended up begging Sami to allow him to return the favor and give him a piece of advice that could save his life. Rollins ended up thinking for a moment. He ended up saying, take the path, Sami. Take the way out. Whatever Paul Heyman's got lined up for you, take it, man. So Rollins ended up saying that if Sami stays on Raw and doesn't believe in him, then bad things will happen. So Rollins was begging Sami to take the out. Sami looked all conflicted. He looked at Rollins, ended up saying that if he hurt his feelings as a friend, he's sorry. He ended up saying everything Rollins is saying is true, and that their friendship transcends this business, and that their kids play together. He ended up saying outside of the ring, that's true. Sami ended up saying that when it comes to everything Rollins says inside this ring, he thinks Rollins is just playing games, and that Rollins is really good at that. He ended up saying that's why he's in this position. He ended up saying Rollins uses those games because he has confidence in him. He ended up saying Rollins is dangling the one thing that he wants, and that is the World Championship. So Sami was like, oh, Rollins talks about her feelings, but he won't stand while his friend threatens him. So Sami ended up saying that he can live being a target, but he can't live with being blackballed and extorted. Sami ended up shouting to Rollins, I will not be threatened. I will win the WWE Championship. I will become a world champion. And when that does happen, it won't be because of any favors from anyone. Sami ended up saying, so buddy, as a friend, I respect you. I love you. But this is me telling you to go to hell. So Rollins looked all upset about Sami's response. Bron Breakker's music ended up hitting. And Bron Breakker was dressed to wrestle. He had Paul Heyman behind him. And that was pretty much how the segment ended. But overall, very good segment this was between Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins. Sami Zayn giving his response to Rollins about, him taking the pass to go to SmackDown, and Sami Zayn declining the offer. So, as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we had the main event. Sami Zayn versus Bron Breakker. And this was a decent match here. They made Bron Breakker here look like a killer with Sami Zayn here. Match got underway. Breakker immediately ended up tackling Sami into the corner. Breakker ended up hitting some shoulder thrusts, and he ended up hitting an overhead belly-to-belly suplex to Sami. Breakker then ended up raking Sami's face onto the top rope. Breakker then whipped Sami into the ropes, and he ended up lowering his head, and Breakker ended up eating a kick from Sami. Sami ended up booting Breakker in the face, and he came off the second rope with a double axe handle to Breakker. Sami then ended up kicking Breakker in his midsection, and he bounced Breakker off the top turnbuckle. So Sami ended up going up to the second rope to deliver another axe handle, but Breakker caught Sami and delivered another overhead belly-to-belly suplex to Sami. Breakker then started choking Sami on the middle rope and sent him into the ropes for a back elbow. Sami then ended up fighting back. He ended up chopping away at Breaker's chest. Breaker then quickly ended up kneeing Sami, but Sami ended up sending Breaker into the ropes. Sami ended up dropping down. He ended up going for a leapfrog, but Breaker ended up slamming Sami out of midair. He ended up going for the cover, to which Sami ended up kicking out. Yeah, Breaker ended up bouncing Sami off the commentary table a few times. Breaker then ended up diving, and he clotheslined Sami over the commentary table off the apron. So then Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Sami ended up fighting off a superplex attempt from Breaker. Sami connected with a sunset flip powerbomb, to which he ended up going for the cover, to which Breaker ended up kicking out. So Breaker then scaled the ropes. He ended up hitting a Frankensteiner to Sami. Breaker sized Sami up, and he charged for a spear. But Sami ended up kicking Breaker in the face, and he ended up hitting an exploder into the turnbuckles. Sami ended up going into the opposite corner. He then ended up charging for the haluva kick, but Breaker countered with a spear to Sami. So Heyman looked fired up at that. He liked what he saw from Bron Breakker with that spear. So Rollins looked at Breakker. He nodded at him. Breakker hit the ropes and ended up hitting another spear to Sami. Sami rolled to the apron. He was heard gasping for air. So Rollins ended up saying to Sami, "It doesn't have to be this way. Take the out. There's still time." So Sami ended up shouting to Rollins, "Go to hell." So Breakker hit the ropes, connected with a third spear to Sami. Sami rolled to the outside of the ring, and the referee ended up going to ringside. He was shouting for the EMTs to come out. So Paul Heyman ended up telling Rollins this isn't his fault. Rollins ended up going over to Breakker and nodded at Breakker again. Breakker then left the ring. He ran around the ring, and he ended up delivering a fourth spear to Sami. This time he hits a spear to Sami on the floor. So we had, officials out there. They were trying to aid Sami, get him up. And the crowd was egging on Bron Breakker to hit another spear to Sami. So Sami was struggling to breathe. Breakker got Sami back into the ring. The ref ended up calling for the bell to end the match. So Bron Breakker won the match by ref stoppage. So post-match, Rollins ended up talking to Breakker in the corner. Rollins ended up telling Breakker, some people deserve their respect and affection. He ended up saying that Sami made his bed. So Rollins then turned and he ended up delivering the stomp to Sami. So Rollins stood tall as Paul Heyman and Bron Breakker were by his side, and that was how Monday Night Raw went off the air. Overall, decent match this was between Sami and Bron Breakker, but they made Bron Breakker look like an absolute killer in this match. I mean, 4 spears to SAMI ZAYN. But overall, Monday Night Raw, okay show it was tonight. But anyway, that's it for my review of tonight's Monday Night Raw. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Be sure to check out my previous video of my review of the Dead Zone if you guys haven't seen it. And join me, of course, tomorrow on my buddy Luke Ponto's channel at 8 o'clock Eastern as we bring you another episode of The Movie Fanatics. So tune in for that tomorrow, and I'll see you all later.